Bibi Zainab alayhi salam from her trance. Bibi Zainab alayhi salam fixed her gaze on him. Without uttering a word, Zainab broke the silence with an exclamation. Akbar knew what love and affection his aunt Zainab had for him. He was conscious of the pangs of sorrow she was experiencing at the moment. Her affection for him transcended everything except her love for Hussein. He looked at her face, who was rendered speechless by her surging feelings of anguish. He knew not how to tell her that he had prepared himself for the journey to heaven that lay ahead. He summoned to his aid his mother, his most coaxing manners that had always made his mother and his aunt Zainab accede to his request, and said, "My aunt, for all my father's kinsmen, the inevitable hour has come. I implore you, by the love you bear for your brother, to let me go, so that it may not be said that he spared me till all his brothers and nephews were killed. When death is a certainty, let me die first, so that I can quench my thirst at the heavenly spring of Kauthar at the hands of my grandfather." The earnestness of Akbar's tone convinced Zainab, and he was determined to go. It seemed to be his last wish to lay down his life before all his kinsmen. With a gasp, Zainab could only say, "Akbar, my child, if the call of death has come to you, go." The battle cry from the enemy's ranks were becoming louder and louder. Ali Akbar knew they had to go out quickly, lest the enemy, seeing that their challenges for combat were remaining unanswered, got emboldened to make a concerted attack on his father's camp. Even such a thought was unbearable for him. So long as he was alive, how could he permit the onslaught of Yazid's forces on his camp, where helpless women and defenseless children were lying huddled together? He spoke to Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. "Zainab, my aunt, I know from your childhood your mother Bibi Fatima alayhi salam has prepared you for the soul-stirring events of today and what is to come hereafter." With a heavy heart, Ali Akbar returned to his father. There was no need for him to say that he had bid farewell to his aunt Zainab, for the sorrow depicted on his face spoke volumes to Hussein. Silently he rose and put Prophet's turban on Akbar's head, and tied the scabbard on his waist, and imprinted a kiss on his forehead. In a failing, faltering voice he muttered, "Go, Akbar, God is there to help you." Treading heavily, Akbar came out of the tent with Hussein following closely behind him. He was about to mount his horse when he felt somebody tugging at his robe. He could hardly see because his eyes were almost blinded with tears. He heard the voice of his young sister Sakina supplicating him not to leave her. "Oh, my brother," she was saying, "do not go to the battleground from which nobody has returned alive since the morning." Softly Akbar lifted her, gently and affectionately kissed her on the face and put her down. His grief was too deep for words. Imam Hussein understood the depth of Akbar's feelings and picked up Sakina to console her. The scene of Ali Akbar's march towards the battlefield was such as would defy description. The cries of the ladies and children of Hussein's camp were rising above the battlefield The cries of the ladies and children of Imam Hussein's camp were rising above the din of battle cries and beating of enemy drums. It was appearing as if a dead body of an only son, dead in the prime youth, was being taken out of a house for the last rites. Ali Akbar was now facing the enemy hordes. He was addressing the forces of Umar ibn Saad with an eloquence which he had inherited from his grandfather and the Prophet, peace be upon him. He was telling them that Hussein, his father, had done them no harm and had devoted his life to the cause of Islam. He was explaining to them that by shedding the blood of Hussein and his kinsmen, they would be incurring the wrath of God and displeasure of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who had loved Hussein more than any other person. He was exhorting them not to smear their hands with the blood of a person so holy, so God-fearing and so righteous. His words cast a spell on the army of the opponents. The older ones from amongst them were blinking their eyes in amazement and wondering whether the Prophet had